It's always interesting to find articles like this because they are unexpected, but I found this article on Game Rant by Jessica Barnes, and it came out yesterday. It's why you should play Dishonored and its sequel in 2022. So we're talking about Dishonored 1 and Dishonored 2, not the DLCs or Death of the Outsider. She has two main reasons for playing these games, which should be interesting. The first one is immersive storytelling and compelling action, which I already have massive problems with. The storytelling part isn't so bad because I do think the game has good storytelling. The story is interesting, and you can find documents around the world to really expand upon the lore of the world, which are really detailed and give you a really good background to the world and to the characters. So I think Arcane really nailed it with that. But coming to the action point, and this is a point that I've argued and really mentioned multiple times in the past, in that the games are way too easy. And a lot of that comes down to the action. The enemies are way too weak. Now, it is realistic that these enemies go down quite easily because, if you compare it to real life, a lot of the weapons and the abilities you use could take down people quite easily. But because this is a video game, there should be a certain level of challenge, and enemies should take a certain degree of punishment before they go down. And just sticking with the abilities for a second. I know we're talking about the enemies, but I think the abilities are way too overpowered, especially because this is a stealth game. Well, really, it was built as a stealth game, so the vision of the studio was to have this mainly be a stealth game, but then you can sort of branch out and do other things. But if you look on YouTube and certain playthroughs, there's people that have complete chaos playthroughs and styles, so you can sort of go through the world and the game just taking out every fucker in your way, which is an option. So yeah, I'm not really sure if Dishonored is really a stealth game. I mean, that was what the studio was setting out to create, but what you have instead is a game where you sort of have the option of sneaking around, but a lot of the abilities allow you to take out multiple opponents, which sort of puts the game in an odd situation. But yeah, moving on, she mentions that the game has original world design, which that's true. A lot of the art concepts are unique to Arcane Studios, so thumbs up by Arcane. But then she comes down to saying that the players have choice in the game, which I do agree with, but I think the way Arcane sort of went about it, it wasn't that great. There's two main ways of playing this game, which I've just mentioned. You can completely do a stealth run, and you can sort of go around ghosting the game. Or number two, you completely do chaos, where you just take out everyone in your path. And the thing with this choice is that, the game, it really doesn't give you many options, because the only options you have in going through the game are sneaking around through everything, which means that you kind of make the game easier by not engaging in enemies. And the enemies are easy to deal with usually anyway, so it's like, well, there's almost no point. And then there's the flip side where you do a complete chaos run where you have overpowered abilities that make your opponents no match for you. No match at all. And it's just like, well, yeah, this game needed to be a lot harder. She does mention a few other things, but, which I think we just sort of move over. I think we sort of, mention our main points. The second point she talks about is groundbreaking level design. Now, I'm not really sure what she means by this. I think maybe she's talking about, you know, maybe missions like a crack in the slab where you get a timepiece and that sort of allows you to go back and forward in time, which I don't think many games by memory have something like this. But then she goes to mention that the Clockwork Mansion is a masterpiece, which I've got a huge issue with because I think it's one of the worst levels in the series. Don't get me wrong, when I first saw this level, I was like, man, this is awesome. Awesome, this is like the best level ever. But then after, 4 or 5 times of going through this level, it's like this level isn't that great. And actually, it's actually really, really bad for all of the reasons that I mentioned in past videos. Um, and yeah, she doesn't really mention why this level is a masterwork. I think she does kind of gloss over that reason, but she doesn't really go in depth. Obviously, this is a short article, so she didn't really have time to really expand on that point. And obviously, in my past videos, I haven't really explained my points in depth either, which I might do so, soon. But yeah, she mentioned the side missions are good, which debatable. She also talks about both titles respecting the player's intelligence, which yeah, I'm not really sure about that. In terms of the story, yes, but in terms of gameplay, not really, because the game's too easy. Um, she talks about puzzles, yeah, whatever. And the last little point is Dishonored is separated from similar titles like Thief, which I'm not really sure why we're comparing Dishonored to a game like Thief, because I played Thief before. I beat the game and it's one of the worst games I've ever played. I think the concept was interesting, having the game take place at night and, obviously having it being first person, it's immersive. But then the gameplay was, I can see what they were trying to do with it, but it was excuse me, it was a bad idea because it makes for really boring gameplay, and I think the game's just broken in general because, you know, you're so fucking weak that you can't even take down the easiest of enemies. So overall, I think that, you know, really, yeah, you probably should play Dishonored. Obviously, I'm biased because it's like my favorite franchise, but I'd probably, excuse me, if I was going to go about the series, oh my god, just give me a moment. I'd probably say, yeah, play the first Dishonored. If you like the first game, play the second game. I'd probably do that. And I'd probably go with it in mind in just try and focus on the story. Don't focus on the level design or the world. That's kind of like a bonus. So focus on the story and see what happens. And that's about it.